Hey, this is Matt and welcome back to the channel where I want to share with you one of my subscribers' hair restoration journey from the day 1 until the month number 10 post-operation. Another reason why I particularly chose to describe and evaluate this case was that he had a very low or surprisingly low hair per graft average, only 1.3 hairs sprouting from each of his follicles in the donor on average. This video is going to be very interesting for all of you guys with fine, fair hair who never got the surgery. Maybe you're considering it, but you are not sure if it's the right thing for you, what to expect, and these type of things. This subscriber of mine is exactly the case as probably many of you guys with fine hair, so make sure you stay tuned and watch this video until the end. And before we start, as always, this video has been brought to you by Go Fiber, which are hair building fibers you can use to mask any thinning or patchy areas on your scalp to make your hair look thicker and better. So make sure you check out the link in the video description below where you can visit Go Fiber, get a free sample of your choice and try them out. See if you like them. Hey, welcome back everybody. My name is Matt and I'm your host on this channel, taking care of you getting the best possible result with your hair transplantation. Also making sure that you are on the right path of thickening your hair, keeping as much of your hair as possible for the future while avoiding the bald guy for life. This is the right channel for you if this sounds appealing to you. And if you want, I can also help you out personally one-on-one if you get my one-on-one Zoom video call, to which you can sign up in the video description. Happy to help you out and get you on the right track and get your hair back. And before I start with the analysis, I just like to mention that this Sunday I'm gonna be live in my Facebook group, Hair Transplant Experiences, talking about how to make sure that you are a suitable hair transplant candidate. It's gonna be like a presentation. It's gonna be live so you can ask me questions. And right now, let me give you a little bit of background of one of my subscribers who got his hair transplantation recently. He started experiencing balding around his age of 18 and right now he's 36 years old. So this is him with 36 experiencing hair loss for 18 years. So that's not huge hair loss, okay? That's actually a very mild hair loss condition in my opinion. We see obviously hairline recession and also some thinning on the crown already, but this also no wonder that the hair loss was so slow because he was already immediately starting minoxidil 5% and 1 milligram finasteride when he started noticing his hair loss once it was already very obvious. So he was already treating his hair loss. He was doing the proper things before even considering a hair restoration, so props to him for doing that. So that was pretty much it. That was his background and he was interested in hearing from me the following: what is the quality of the surgery that was performed? Do you think it is a good result? The second, I'm a little disappointed about the density. What do you think? And will a second hair transplant be more satisfying in terms of density? And the last thing, he has done several PRP sessions and he doesn't have the feeling it did much. And would you advise, in my case, a hair transplant on the crown area? So let's just break this down and answer all of his questions in this video. Now, before I start commenting onto his daily and monthly progress after his hair restoration, let me just briefly mention that trichoscopic hair evaluation that he has done before his surgery with Hair Matrix system, which is a software and hardware for evaluating the hair, for doing a trichoscopic hair evaluation. There are many different softwares and hardwares like Tricho Lab, many of you guys know. So this is just one of them. Not sure which one is more precise. I guess they're all just based on artificial intelligence to an extent and trying to identify different types of hair follicles and densities, and they're just approximations. These are no 100% precise devices. But nonetheless, it's very interesting how consistent the really low hair per graft ratio was with this patient. Look at that. Frontal zone, it was 1.3 hairs growing from each graft on average. In the midsection, the mid-scalp, it was 1.4. In the vertex, it was 1.4. And in the occipital region, only the left portion of the occipital region, it was 1.3. And also, average hair width is around 55, I would say. And this can be classified as pretty fine hair or hair with a very thin caliber of 55 microns or 0.05 millimeter. If we take a look at this statistics or this graphic here, you can also notice that most of his hairs per square centimeter, no matter if it's on the front, mid scalp or crown or occipital region, has that 55 micron caliber, which is being classified by this software from Hair Matrix as small terminal hair. So in this case, this subscriber of mine has clearly most of his hair with a very low hair per graft average, and also average hair width is rather fine. Does it mean he cannot get a hair transplant? No, of course not. It just means that it will not be as great type of hair for, you know, decreasing the see-through effect on the hairline and maximizing that fullness and robustness of that result, because the hair is fine, and also technically it's harder to transplant very fine hair, which is also very fragile, in high densities. Now, one thing that I'm not really sure about would be the follicle count per square centimeter, which you can see here, and it says 184, and this is not hairs. If this would have been hairs per square centimeter in the frontal zone, I would have been okay with this, but it says follicle count. That means that it's 184 follicles. That is pretty unrealistic, and I don't think this is a good value. 72 is a good number. That means 72 follicles per square centimeter in the donor occipital. That's fine, but there is no way that it's more than twice as high in the front, or even here, like here in the vertex. There is no way, because if we take a look at the density here, the occipital is actually like has the thickest hair and the least baldness surface per square centimeter compared to the vertex here, right? And the vertex has apparently a better hair follicle count per square centimeter. The vertex has 140 versus 72 on the occipital. So again, it doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And the best follicle count per square centimeter is on the front, which definitely is not the case. If you look at the front, you see it's the most thinned out area compared to the occipital, right? Now let's take a look at the results right after the surgery. He has done 1600 grafts, which they actually covered a fairly large area with 1600 grafts. We see some nice micro irregularity in the hairline. We can see that his hairline is pretty much like rounded. It goes like that. It's not like straight. And on top of that, it also has these that micro irregularity, which goes like that coastline right here, which is definitely a good strategy for somebody who has very fine hair. And if a doctor gets a patient like him with knowing he has very fine hair and most of these grafts that he will be transplanting on the front will be singles, it doesn't make sense to do a straight hairline which is framing and squaring off his forehead very well, because then everybody will expect such guy to be noticed with a very good density, very high densely packed hairline, which is not going to be achievable with this guy, especially not with the first session. And that's why it makes much more sense to do that rounded hairline with that I would say higher degree of micro irregularity, which makes a lot of sense here. And I think this is the ideal type of design, ideal type of approach for his hairline restoration. In this case, for somebody with a low hair per graft average and also very fair and fine hair. So very well done, in my opinion, on the hairline design. Now, this definitely looks like 1600 grafts, so this is definitely what the clinic promised they tried to deliver. So he definitely didn't get like, I don't know, like scammed. Definitely not, as sometimes it can be the case. If you go to a clinic which is not as honest, they tell you they transplant 3500 grafts, but then you end up with 2500. It's actually quite common nowadays, especially in some less reliable clinics in Turkey, for example. And I made a video on it here, so you may want to check it out. Considering the photo has been captured right after the surgery, we notice that they also tried to wash the recipient area properly, and they didn't want to leave it too scabby, and this is really how it should be done, so you can speed up healing and the crust formation and minimize the crust formation really by washing that recipient area properly right after the surgery. And as you can see, he has done the long hair and no shave FUE. I mean, they shaved his donor zone, I'm going to share with you, but they didn't shave the recipient area. They did not spread the extraction to the sides, but only focused on the occipital region. They stayed away from the parietal zones. As we can see, they did a fairly good job, in my opinion, in doing proper homogenization. I don't see any areas which were over harvested, so it seems like they did try to spread out the extraction very well over the whole occipital region. This is the day number 5 after his operation. We already see that the scabs are becoming more obvious. This is the day number 10, and we can already notice that most of the scabs have already fallen out, and there are still many hairs which did not fall out. From now on, you can expect that newly transplanted hair to start falling out, and it can start falling out even as soon as the day number 6 or 7, and that's totally fine. It will grow back after the month number 3, so don't panic, don't worry. As far as the follicular unit types that are placed right into the hairline, I see prevalently singles. Here is 1, 2 doubles, but other than that, we see only singles. Now, I do not think that doubles will even matter with this guy. Even if there would have been more doubles in the hairline, as long as they have good direction, it will actually help him to get lower see-through effect and fuller looking hairline, because I know it for myself. I have very fine hair as well, and these doubles, they can actually provide some good density to the hairline, which the singles cannot provide unless the singles have been placed in a crazy high density on the hairline, like 55-60 grafts per square centimeter. Because in my opinion, doubles can look the most unnatural on the guys who have already very thick hair in diameter to begin with, like Spanish guys, guys from the Middle East, even Indian guys, like usually guys with dark hair. If these doubles or even triples are being found in the hairline by these guys, it will look pluggy, or it's more likely to look pluggy compared by guys with fine hair. Now, the next update we see from him is the month number 2. There's no 1 month update, so I'm just gonna skip right to the month number 2, and we can notice how much of that hair on the hairline has shed already. On the other hand, the hair behind the hairline, which also has been transplanted, survived. Like, a lot of it survived, and it's still growing. Also, what I like is how the redness is already disappearing very slowly. You see that this was the transplanted area, and the color underneath is already very similar to the color of his forehead right here. It's already evening out, and that's what you want to see already by the month number 2. You don't want to be seeing a lot of redness anymore. So I can already tell from the placement photo that the density was probably around 30 grafts per square centimeter, maybe 20 to 30 based on the location, and the density in here is probably much higher. Again, the trichoscopic hair examination told us it's around 180, which again, it's impossible in my opinion, but it will likely be maybe around 100 grafts per square centimeter in this area, or close to 100, and in such case it's definitely several times more than what it's going to be here per square centimeter, which I think again is going to be around 30. So the transplanted zone will have definitely lower density per square centimeter compared to this zone. Now, will it even matter if it grows and if it's going to be long hair? We will find out. So this is 3.5 months after his hair restoration, and we can already start seeing how the transplanted area is filling out, and I really like what I'm seeing so far. It's looking like it's gonna look very natural, at least from here. This is the month number 7, everybody, and as you can see here, the density is about what I was thinking, somewhere between 20 to 30 based on the area that you will choose for the observation, in my opinion. As far as the follicular unit type occurrence in the hairline, we see mainly singles as it should be, but no wonder, because he had mainly single grafts, or prevalently single grafts with a low hair per graft ratio in his donor, so no wonder we find most of these singles also in the hairline. Again, occasionally if doubles are in the hairline, this is actually going to help him as long as the angles are going to be correct. Doubles can actually provide some nice fullness to his hairline. Now, if we take a look at that hair from close up, we really see that most of these follicles are in fact producing single hairs. They are very soft, and usually you don't see even triples on a regular basis. Occasionally some doubles, but most of them are really singles as far as I can see also in this area. Okay, it's looking like it's starting to blend with the existing hair behind it. Let's go to the month number 9, right? This is a really awesome shot which can expose the hairline the most, I guess, can expose the see-through effect. The hair is already longer, and you can see how it nicely starts to blend with that long hair behind it. Beautiful hairline, in my opinion, in terms of naturalness, in terms of design. Obviously, the see-through effect is visible, and it's pretty, it's not low, right? But again, this can be improved with second surgery, which again is usually the case with guys with such a fine hair, with so many singles that will be transplanted. You cannot expect to have super full hairline with the first session, especially not if you got 1600 grafts only on a relatively large area. So here I'm actually, I would be very happy for having a really good hair regrowth rate, very good survival rate, very good naturalness. I would be happy for these things, and then I would be optimizing with the second surgery to add more fullness and density. Obviously you can do it. You are asking if you can get a better result with the second surgery. The answer is obviously yes. You can add more density into the hairline and maybe even behind it to decrease that see-through effect. But in terms of naturalness, we see how many singles are there, mainly singles, and the angles are also correct. I really like it. And by the way, this is exactly the result I would expect from 1600 grafts transplanted on such a relatively large area with a pretty low hair per graft average. This is even better, slightly better than what I even would expect. Okay, so you can be definitely happy for this. This is another type of hairstyle when he didn't slick the hair backwards, but he kind of spread it to the left and right side, and we can also notice how the transplanted hair is behaving correctly in this case as well. It's not behaving lazy, or it doesn't try to stick out different way. So it's easily combable to the front, to the side, or to when you slick it back, and that's how it should be. This is looking beautiful. Again, 9 months. If we compare it to before, this is looking awesome, like almost flawless. Again, considering what a small number of grafts had been grafted, we see a really good survival on that right side. It's looking very natural. It's looking very good. And that's an advantage for guys with so many singles. There is no way that hairline will look unnatural because there are so many singles. And the only disadvantage is that the density will be lower and the see-through effect may be higher. But in this case, if you let that hair grow longer, and the more we kind of zoom out, we notice that it actually doesn't look that receded. It's only when we try to zoom in too much we notice that see-through effect, but the further we go, the more it actually looks very wholesome, very full actually. And by using even volumizing powders like the one I like to use, it's going to definitely add another 15-20% fullness. Trust me, that's what I'm using also when I'm doing the slick back hairstyle, and it always thickens the hair and decreases the see-through effect, so you can try it out as well. And here as an example, just 2 months ago, that was the 7-month mark, the hair is still shorter, but also it's kind of growing up, right? Because he's not slicking it back. And here is the difference between making it like stand up and actually making it easier for the see-through effect to be very high instead of this. And this is just 2 months later. The hair didn't really thicken that much, in my opinion. There is not much more new hair growth since month 7 to 9. But what he did, he put that hair together. Obviously the hair got longer and he slicked it back and he kind of stacked it on top. And that's how you can get the most out of thin hair after your surgery, to slick it back. And if he would like use the volumizing powder even on top, like kind of sprinkle in between the strands and then do that, then this is like the killer. That's how you get the most out of the surgery. Instead of making it stand up, you cannot do that. I mean, if you don't want to have high see-through effect. So this is the best hairstyle, in my opinion, for him long term, how he can make the hair transplant look good, full, and undetectable, and most natural. He also mentions he has done 3 PRP sessions before his surgery, and he felt it didn't do anything apart from draining his bank account. Many guys have experience with PRP, as this guy, myself included. I have done 4 PRPs back in 2019, and it didn't do anything to me. And neither does PRP seems to work for most of the guys that I either spoke to in person or consulted online or in our Facebook group. Usually PRP is not the best thing to manage androgenetic alopecia. I'm not saying it's useless for other types of alopecia, like non-androgenetic types of alopecia, but for us guys whose hair loss is predominantly driven by DHT and androgen receptor sensitivity of the hair follicle to that DHT, for us PRP will not really do a lot. At month 2 after hair transplantation, he experienced shock loss, which is totally normal, and he took a 4th PRP session and the shock loss recovered. Not really because of the PRP, it recovers on itself. The shock loss on the donor area, if it happens also on the donor, it usually recovers unless it has been like permanently overharvested. Then it doesn't recover, but in his case it recovered because there was no overharvesting, as we will see. He was further asking about the crown area, whether he should do more PRPs or more treatments or just do another surgery on the crown, because the clinic apparently didn't want to do crown area hair restoration yet. I'm not sure how long you have been using treatments. How long have you been on topical finasteride prior to this picture? If it has been already a year, 2 years or more, you have been on finasteride or topical finasteride, you have been using minoxidil, it's probably not gonna get better. And as long as you have been using minoxidil and microneedling, you have been using it for at least a year, year and a half, and this is the maximum improvement you got, then I would consider also hair restoration on the crown. But in case you did not do microneedling with minoxidil, in my opinion, it's worth it. I would especially focus on the needling in this area the most intensely. Obviously, you don't want to cause like super high bleeding, just the pinpoint bleeding, and do it once a week with 1 millimeter, 1.5 millimeter. You can work your way up with the needle size, but do this once a week and apply minoxidil every day on this area to see how much more growth you can stimulate, because it seems like the density of the follicles in this area is also still pretty good. So in case you haven't been doing the needling and minoxidil consistently on this area for at least a year, year and a half, then do that and then consider hair restoration again maybe. But if you have been doing it and this is the max improvement you got, then I would consider also a minor hair restoration on the crown, maybe adding 500 to 700 grafts to strengthen that area a little bit more. And one last advantageous thing that I have observed with this case is a very good, very low skin to hair contrast. If we take a look at his skin pigment compared to his hair pigment, it's almost the same. and that enables that slick back look to look fuller compared to another candidate who might be having like very white skin and black hair, but also black but thin hair. So in this case, it's much better. So even with thin hair and very fair hair, you can get a natural result, you can get an improvement, you can look more attractive, you can look younger and more fresh, even if you have thin hair, even if you have suboptimal hair per graft average as this subscriber of mine. Thanks for providing the photos, thanks for sharing this with us. You helped a lot of guys who are in the similar situation, who are also seeking hair restoration, who want to look better and have thin hair and maybe are doubting whether it's going to work for them or not. And I'm sure this already demonstrated to them how it can turn out if it's going to be done properly and what they can expect. So long story short, you can do it. You can still get a surgery even if you have fine hair. You can also consult it with me on mattdominance.com/mentoring, or check out the link in the description below if you want my personal one-on-one help and assistance with finding the right doctor, right clinic, sharing with you what's possible, what's not possible, which clinics to avoid, which clinics are good, and what pitfalls to avoid, and also repair your surgery if you have done already a surgery which was unsuccessful. These are things I can help you out in person. And that was it from me for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm going to be looking forward to seeing you soon in another video. Take care.